All right. Anybody watching the live stream, we're having a little audio difficulty today, so stand by. I'm going to try to get this working for you. What are the inputs here?
So, or where to find the email. So I'm still working on where to find it, but I have now found it. Okay, let's see what April says here. April says, "You're right. I'm working." She's crying. Yes, I understand the the tears sometimes when that happens. I get you. Tom's got a hand on his side. Okay, let's go here. All right. So these pillars, what happens when somebody's off pillar, if they don't have core principles that they stick to, all of a sudden they're saying yes to everything, or confusing, which is our next topic, consistency, confusing their audience. What's this, Tom? I see I'm looking at the live stream. I see something new here. I see Tom's.
Yeah, that's a that's I don't know what just happened. It just switched input for some
Tom,
reason.
you're on mute, so I don't hear you.
I'm not on mute on the live stream. Everybody on the live stream can hear me. Only you can't hear me. You're the only one that can't.
You're on Clubhouse.
You're on Clubhouse.
I know, but I can't unmute yet. So you have to stand by. Don't try to talk to me.
Okay, he's just moving his lips. Okay, this is all right. There we go. This is exactly not the smartest guys in the room. Dragon, what's going on, man? I wonder if you got pillars, basic core principles that you talk about. Like, I know you are into like building confidence. You're also into the body and fitness. And is it fitness, or is that complete physical and mental health? I wonder. So here, come on up, man. Let's talk. If you're able to talk, you might not be able to. How's fatherhood treating you, Dragon?
Hey, dudes.
How you doing today, my friend?
Good. I'm actually doing what I do when I come to this on Wednesdays is I'm usually on the treadmill.
Okay, so you could treadmill away, and we won't if we hear your. Sometimes I make videos when I'm out riding my bike, or
Oh, I just walk, and then when I sign off, that's when I run.
then you run. Okay, so as a businessman, do you have like core pillars or principles that you like? Because you do some coaching, but coaching could fall under mental and physical, or are there key things that you stick to?
I do. I do. And I guess it probably comes from if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything. So the pillars that I use fall under something I learned called the trilogy of optimal health. And what it says, if you can imagine like a triangle, from top to the bottom right to the left, those are the pillars, and they are healthy body, healthy mind, healthy finances.
Sorry, everybody. The live stream is not functioning. I'm just going to put up a hold graphic here for a little bit, and we'll see if we can get this working for you. Still having some trouble, folks. Just trying to iron this out. Bear with us. Bear with us. so we may be getting back up here. Stand by. Now we've got an echo. All right. So I'm just going to talk you guys through what I'm doing here while Dom is chatting away on Clubhouse. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get this set up so that we can hear Clubhouse. Stand by.
Tools that help sales journey. Like,
all right.
This is the
now we can hear
I've got
Clubhouse.
a prettier version of what I called those, but that gives me the summary. Backing a web agency that works for B2B customers. So those have been my sort of pillars around sort of content and things, but maybe that's not quite the way you are thinking of pillars in terms of value.
No, it wasn't in terms of value, because you were right when you brought up the personal. I guess personal and business, it shouldn't be that much different, but your pillars were, for a layman over on this side, I have no idea what those meant. They were over my head. So can you layman it for me? No dice. Okay, go on. Hey, Tom, I see you. It looks like you're here. You're live. Are you live? And
I think we're working.
So we're not the smartest guys in the room, live on the live stream. Tom is talking. So
you can hear me, right?
Yeah, you sound good.
This is functional. Cool. I think I cracked the code finally.
Hey, we like that. Tom, so you heard Tristan give some of his pillars here.
I did not. I've heard nothing that's happened since you opened the room, because I've been trying to fix the audio issue. When you saw me talking, all I was doing was talking to the people who could see the live stream, because they couldn't hear anything happening on Clubhouse or anything other than me, right? So I was just trying to tell people that we were working on it, have a little bit of a different system set up today. So appreciate you guys sticking with us through the technical difficulties, but that's what was going on. So I've heard nothing. I don't even know what we're talking about.
All right. Well then, okay, Tom, right now we're talking, I want to talk consistency, but before we can talk consistency, we are talking about pillars, meaning, like, and Tristan said, oh, do you mean values? It could be values, but I was talking as a business. Are there certain core messages, core things that you stick to?
Absolutely. I mean, and I have kind of a series of them, and there is kind of a hierarchy too, right? So like I have a core sort of principle, right, that I try to follow in everything that I do as a business. And that core principle is lead with value always, right? So I'm always trying to give more than I take. And I'm not 100% successful with that, right? Nobody is 100% successful at anything that they do. But I believe that intention really matters. So I always try to give more than I take. So that's my sort of core principle. And then I have some other what I call directives that I use and apply. And this is all like, I mean, this is the core principle and the key directives that I lay out in my book, Legendeering. And it's because these are the things that I try to do, right? So it's sort of a communication first strategy, right? Just like Legendeering is, but my approach to things is very much along those veins. So, for me, it's lead with value always, but then sort of below that and kind of pushing me always towards trying to live up to that core principle are the ideals that I should give without expectation. I should be relentlessly authentic. I should always remember that it's not about me, it's about them. It's about my audience and my community, right? I should start with story and follow with facts as sort of a component of how I communicate, and that consistency is key. And that's the one that I have historically struggled with the most, I think, is the consistency part, and it's one that I think a lot of people struggle with. But yeah, I mean, so I do have a set of sort of core principles that I try to follow and try to live up to every day.
Now, if I was going to offer you a business opportunity that may not be on one of these core principles, how do you justify? Maybe, Tom, it's 30 grand for this weekend, and it doesn't meet your principles. How do you say, like in some cases, well, that 30 grand might be a means to an end and might help you get to where you're going faster, or that 30 grand might be, this is way off message and it's a detriment to everything I've done. So what do you do?
Well, so I think there is a little bit of wiggle room, right? Like not everything is sort of, is binary, right? I mean, life isn't binary. Kind of life happens in the gray, right? Between sort of black and white. So, from my perspective, I think the real question is not really does it follow my principles. The question is, does it violate my principles? And I think that's where you really draw the hard line in the sand, right? So if the question is, I've got a job for you, this weekend, it'll be, the rate for this weekend for this job is $30,000. But it's not going to, it's not going to further your goals or your mission, right? Like, okay, but that $30,000 might allow me and my business to do a little bit more to further my goals and my mission of humanizing the world of business, right? So maybe yes, but if you turn to me and said, "Hey, I got this opportunity coming up. It's $30,000 job this weekend, but it is contrary to your core principle of always leading with value. It is, it's a money grab. Basically, you're supporting someone who's convincing people to spend money, in a way they don't need or shouldn't spend money, right? Like, so you're supporting someone who's essentially taking advantage of other people, right? In that case, then I would turn around and I would say, no. That is contrary to my principles, and so my answer is no, I won't do it. Is it so like if it doesn't further my principles, that's a maybe, depends on the situation. If it's contrary to my principles, then it's a hard no, right? And I don't really care how much you're willing to pay me, because the end does not always justify the means, right? It's very easy to go down a bad path when you kind of adhere to that sort of philosophy, I think. So yeah, it's a hard no if it's contrary to my principles. That's where I draw the line.
Okay, good answer, my friend. JC, I know you're on the treadmill, you got any thoughts on this? What's the route you take? Let's say opportunity tomorrow that maybe could further you or maybe could put money in your pocket. How do you make sure that you're sticking to your pillars?
This is an interesting topic because I don't put a lot of exclamation points behind my statements, I just I'm just open and curious to anything before I shut it down. Because what I've learned in my 52 years is I don't really know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like I go through glimpses and moments of feeling certain, even about my pillars so I've just learned, like, the success that I have, if I step back from this conversation, look at my bank account, or look at the fulfillment and the amount of quality time I get to spend with my family, however anybody judges success or whatever metric you use, it hasn't come from me never opening my mind to anything. Like, even, I totally understand and agree with what Tom was saying, but what I've learned is that I very often make a mistake in misinterpreting somebody's intentions and things like that. I mean, there's a filter that won't allow certain people to come in, but I've just really been practicing being open and curious, even if it's just to learn about human behavior. So I'll let people pitch me, or I'll let a conversation go a little longer, even if it's not really what I'm looking for, or if it appears to be something that doesn't fit into my principles. I'll let it go a little longer. And what's interesting about the way the universe works, you always say God works in mysterious ways. Um, so do these kind of interactions, you know? Very often it's us making the mistake of looking at something and labeling it and judging it based on something that we're tethered to. So just a different perspective. I might wake up tomorrow and use it the same strategy as Tom. But just right now, at this time, as we're speaking, I'm open and curious to everything. But what's interesting, though, Dom, in closing, is if I look back at the success and fulfillment of this life experience I'm having, it has not come from standing strong. It's come from allowing myself to step into the potentially uncomfortable zone where growth takes place.
Thank you, JC. Hey, so fatherhood, you're going down this path right now. Anything new this week or different? Are you open to sharing it? Have you been down that road before? I don't know.
I got two boys bigger than me graduating college.
Okay,
so yeah,
gotcha. Yes.
This is my second run. But what's interesting about that for anybody, I just adopted a little girl, so I got a do-over, which is kind of funny. You know, you kind of there is some glory to knowing that you did a good job. Your kids are going to great schools. They're going to go out into life, and you're raised in the right way, and you get to relax a little, maybe have a little fun. But I just went right back into the trenches. But yeah, it's nothing but a blessing as a parent to have the prior experience of what I think I did right and what I think I did wrong, and just make an attempt at chasing better. So my little girl is getting a much more optimized version of me. So that makes me feel good. I mean, that's pretty much the center of my world right now for any parents that have kids, you understand. So everything I do, case in point, my pillars, you know, the effort I put into life, me on the treadmill right now, coming to this to learn, it's all centered around my children. So yeah, that's my biggest blessing.
Good stuff, man. We appreciate you, and good luck on that journey. You said something there that really hit me. I think my daughter's 15, my son's just turned 18. They definitely get a better parenting version of me now than they got 13 years ago. You know, I was trying my best, but I was trying my best with what I had, the knowledge I had at that time, you know, and now 13 years later, I yell a whole heck of a lot less, get mad a lot less, and kind of just understand that some things I cannot change, you know. So I gotta let them be them, you know. I always gotta protect them too. Sometimes over the years had to protect. Sometimes you gotta protect your children from your children. Hey, okay, back to pillars here. Okay, so where I wanted to run this by you all here, and just we're talking pillars. Does your business have them? Do you need them? Can you change them? You could change them. You're growing. So when I used to be in pharmaceuticals, I had already had a publishing business. I wasn't to the point where I was ready to go on my own full time. So I was in insurance first, and then I moved to pharmaceuticals. I just wasn't ready yet. So now I'm getting closer to being ready, and I'm working in pharmaceuticals. And pharmaceuticals was against everything that I stood for in my personal business, a lot of ways. But pharmaceuticals was helping me. It was a benchmark and metric that was helping me get to where I wanted to go. So it was such a mind F when I was going through it, because some of my friends knew, and they'd be like, you're working for the devil, you're this. But what do you think about that? Tom, go on, and we're going to chat with Kristen and Jason again. Go on.
I mean, look, I think, you know, everybody does the best they can at that I think everybody should. All right, let me start that over because that's not necessarily true. Everybody doesn't do the best they can, but I think what everybody should do is strive to do the best they can in their current context, right? And I think that's important because it's really easy to Monday morning quarterback, right? It's really easy to look back with the benefit of hindsight and say to someone, oh, well, you should have done this way, or you should have done that way, or even self-critique, right? I should have done this instead. I shouldn't have done that. I should have taken this job. I shouldn't have taken that job, right? It's really easy to Monday morning quarterback. But the real question you should be asking, and other people should be asking, is, did I do the best I could at that particular moment in time, given the context, right? Given the world, my life as I understood it, right? What was available to me then? It's not dissimilar to my kind of approach with creative work, right? Which is something you've heard me say before. Probably everybody in this room has heard me say before, is that when it comes to creative work, it's very easy to get kind of into a cycle, a never-ending cycle of always wanting to tweak and refine and edit and change, your work, whether it's a book. I'm sure you've gone through this with authors before, right? Whether it's a book or some of the books you've written yourself, right? Or it's a video you're creating or a commercial or something you're working on for a client, whatever the case may be. In creative work in particular, I find that this is a cycle that's easy to fall into. And so the question I tell people that they should be asking is not, is this perfect? Right? Because the answer is no. And the answer is always no, because nothing we ever do is perfect. The question you should be asking yourself is this the best this can possibly be right now, at this moment in time, given all of the context and circumstances surrounding everything that's going on right now? Is this the best it can possibly be? And if the answer is yes, it goes. You send it. You give it to the client, right? You post it online, whatever the question, whatever the situation is, right? But that's the question to ask, right? Is this the best it can possibly be right now? And I think similarly, the question people should ask themselves is not, is this the right decision, but is this the best decision right now? Right? Given all the context that I have. Because like I said, it's super easy to Monday morning quarterback, to look back on something, or to take criticism from someone else, right? But if they were in your situation, if the shoe was on the other foot, so to speak, might they have done the same thing? Right? I think potentially. So in a lot of cases, potentially, maybe even likely. So yeah, I always kind of take that thing with a grain of salt, and because context matters, right? Nuance matters. And often those sort of big sweeping statements, that, you're working for the devil, or you're selling your soul to get ahead right now, or whatever the case may be, those sort of grandiose statements tend to ignore context. So, while I think it's important to know your values and to stand on your values, right, and to adhere to them, or else they're kind of worthless, I think context always matters, right? So I think that's the key to it, is understanding the context and resisting the urge to Monday morning quarterback. I don't know. That's what I think.
Okay, that's solid. Makes me feel a little better. All right, Jason, man. Wait, well, Jason's still wearing his Irish shirt, man. So, Jason, as you're in business and you're starting, you have a podcast, you do rooms. How do you have pillars? Do you have core messages you stick to? Are you adding to them? Do you want to add to them? How do you know that you're not way off message, or it doesn't matter? What do you got for me, man?
Do I have core pillars in my person and what I do that feeds to business, social? In other words, absolutely. I don't worry about getting it right. I only concern myself of getting it done. And something I was talking to other people on lately is your life is based on experiences, right? And they're not all perfect. They're not all going to be exactly right. They're not going to, things don't always turn out the way that you wanted them to. but they turn out for you as they're needed. And that's living life. So my core pillars are, there's a couple phrases I use that I tell people, and I live by this. I'm like, look, nobody is self-made. I don't care who you are. You're self-interest, but you're community built. So from the moment you were held and you came out of your mom's womb, and she guided you, your parents raised you, you've been, those are beginning your teachers, the people that help you sculpt the experience. And when you understand that, as you go through life, you're going to have a lot of different people who make impacts on you, and you're going to make impacts on people. So my core value is really like, look, I'm a contributor and I'm a creator. It's a combo deal with me, and sometimes I just don't get it right. So way I've been is like, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I'd like to achieve this, but here's where I'm at. Let's work at where I'm at. And then alongside me is like gaps in the road, and just do. And then you fill in the gaps. You fill in what's missing, and you're going to know where it's going to fit into your life. Being a parent, there's no instruction manual. People can tell you how to be a great parent or a dad, but there's a lot of trial and error, or starting your own business. If you don't go through trial and error in starting a business, then what do you got? There's a lot of things that we don't know. But here goes to my second pillar. Our best experiences lie within the unknown, not what we already know. So if you keep that in mind, everything that happens to you, around you, or in your sphere of influence, always happening for you, but it's interesting about how things and new experiences unfold. And it's like, oh, wow, man, love that adventure. So if you treat life as an adventure, in additions, great. But then there's a part of the last pillar is your self-mastery. The self-mastery is very important, because when you master your level of output and your emotions input, then you realize where your worth is, who you're willing to exchange it with, what you're willing to spend it on time with. Like a friend came to me, he's like, hey man, I'm stuck in my career. I'm only making 3% raises every year. And I'm like, because you're in a 3-year cycle. He's all, what? I'm all, yeah, you're in a 3-year cycle. So you're only worth 3%. If you really look and evaluated where you're at, if you want to be somewhere higher, then why do you keep on taking just 3%? And he's like, never thought about that. And I'm like, yeah. So if you want something more, you've got to have something to negotiate where they're willing to come to your table as you go to theirs. And he went back, and the guy told me, he's like, I almost quit my job that day, when he talked to me later. But my boss gave me a huge salary increase because he didn't want to lose me to a competitor. And then he negotiated a different role for me that's better. And I said, see, it's the things that you don't ask for. So if when you realize what you're worth, you're evaluating like the negotiating points. But if you keep just taking whatever life is going to give you, like, learn to negotiate the price and value of things always, because you don't know what you're willing to get, and you don't know what you're worth until you put that like to test. So hopefully this adds to your talk. Thank you for allowing me upstage.
Hey, don't go anywhere yet. I want to back up to this contributor and creator comment you made. So if you said, hey, I'm a contributor and creator, to me, that would allow you a lot of freedom. That, okay, I get it. Jason creates. He contributes every day. He's going to create, and it could be, and you could say, this is the mind of Jason. I create, and it allows you a lot of freedom. Is there a time where that could be a turnoff to the people? Meaning, let's say you're a creator, you create, but you gave yourself so much freedom that people are like, whoa, this show's not what I thought I was going to get out of Jason. Is that possible? Or does it matter?
Absolutely. It should be that way. It really, and very seldom I ever use that word should. there's a consistently level that you've got to work with and attract people, but when it's always crazy until it works. Everything that you think outside of the box, what other people don't do, what you do, may not work right now, may not work for others or the masses. It might work for some of people. It doesn't matter what you do in your life. But just remember, when it means something to you and you believe that, that's the first most important thing, not in delusion. Like, just don't keep working just to be stupid or crazy, like, oh man, I just keep failing and keep failing. But when you keep working at something, and you believe in it, and it's like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to learn. Okay. If you're learning while you're creating, making, and you're willing to go to that next level, like, for example, I was talking to, Brandon, and we're working on my branding, right? And there was like one concept that really did not agree with me. My wife is sitting next to me and she's like, oh, babe, I really like this one. This is the loud one. This is who you are. And these other two, not feeling it. And I was like, my ego was speaking up, and I was just like, no, you're wrong. Took me a minute. And she said, look at it in a different color scheme. Would it work then? And then the light bulb went off. And I was like, you know what? You're right. And so when we were working through this process, and she's like, I didn't want to make that influence. I want you to make that decision. I'm like, absolutely. And that's why I'm only giving you a small skew. And when we talked about it, she's like, you really do believe in what you're doing? I'm like, I believe in it so much that I'd be willing to stake my whole life reputation, and I'm willing to fail to go broke on it. And she's like, I've never heard you talk like that. Even though you talk very firm, the willing to fail and go against the grain, that's part of who I am. I'm just not willing to stay stagnant. Some people, that's good for them, but I just, contribute, create, share at the table, have fun, because you're only on this earth for so long, and you're only going to have certain abilities for so long. As you get older, you realize, oh shit, excuse my language. Oh darn. I can't walk as far. I can't think as fast. I can't do a lot of things as I get older. So you know what? While I still have youth in me, the fire in me is going to burn so bright and so passionate and so concise and methodical. I'm going to make this work as if my life's staked on it. And if you thought about that, and then you think about who you work for, who you collaborate with, who you're friends with, you're going to see people come and go, but you're going to see that you appreciate your value. So create and contribute always. Don't take it personal as best you can, and just go out there and try to win the best you can. But just understand, sometimes there's just no winning. It's nominal. It's boring. So hopefully that answers all your questions. It's pretty long for me to answer.
All right, that's funny. Does it answer all my questions? I got questions, man. So no, it doesn't answer all my questions. But thank you. Good job. Not the smartest guys in the room. Hey, our man John J. Wiley in the house. John J. Wiley, did you see that picture of you at CreativeCon up there? Good looking dude teaching in the class.
Did see it. I don't know about the good looking part, but yeah, I did chuckle.
Man, if I want to get you know what I should do? I should create a fake account of John Jay, and I'd have so many followers so quick. Hey, John, so we were talking pillars a little bit here. Pillars, consistency. So if I had, like John does law enforcement radio, but what are there certain pillars you stick to, or is it like you could say you could make it as niche as I'm doing radio. That's what I do 100%. But you do podcasts or you do Clubhouse, but that's audio or voice, or is it that I would do law enforcement everywhere, but then you do some coaching as well? So how do you, as a businessman, how do you control these pillars and make sure you're not going down a path that's going to waste your time or be in an area you don't want to be in?
Well, that's a good point. So, first of all, my show is always about either investigating crime from active retired law enforcement officers, or it's about trauma that other first responders, military, victims of crime, or spouses or survivors went through, how it impacted them, and what they did to build their lives afterwards. And that right there, that's about 75% to 80% of my show. When I did start the show, it was only for those afflicted by PTSD and their family members. The minute I got picked up by radio, I had to expand. But the one thing I always tell people is, if you want to do an infomercial, it's going to cost you a lot of money. If you're not going to fit the format for radio, then radio stations will drop me. Then it's got to be a podcast only. And that's a 24/7, 365 marketing platform for you. So I'm not doing that for free. I've got, since 2017, worked and invested in this. And that usually will separate the wheat from the chaff. People will say, well, I don't want to spend any money. Okay, nice talking to you. Secondly, when it comes to other stuff, my social media, website, email, newsletter, I put those in commercials. So that's comes across a different way. And I never advertise my services. I do that in Clubhouse and other things. Because that's not the bulk. That's very time restrictive. It uses a lot of time, and the money is just not worth it. But yeah, the answer is consistency in my format, and it's always about a certain thing every time. And if someone wants something else, they can go to another show that does that. Mine doesn't.
I think that makes a lot of sense, John, right? Because like at the end of the day, it's always a bit of a balancing act, right? But I think one of the things that you always work hard to adhere to is the idea that your audience comes first, right? And I know you do that in considering who the guests are on your show, the kind of content that you create for them, the way you reach out to them, the way you connect with them, that at the end of the day, you are there to provide, content that is valuable to or entertaining to or informative for your audience. That's the job. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. So yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that. I think that's a really, it's one of the reasons why, I think you've seen continued growth, that at the end of the day, sort of tactics aside and looking at sort of ROI on different modes of outreach, at the end of the day, at its core, the thing driving what you're doing and how you're doing it is consistent, is the same, and is that mission to provide your content for your audience, or the content that your audience wants for them. And I think that's really important. I think a lot of people miss that. They get caught up in the minutia of, things on social media and metrics and stuff like that. And they forget that core mission. And, metrics are great, but if you're not ultimately delivering, if you're not creating the goods and you're not focused on delivering the goods, then the metrics are kind of, meaningless. Maybe they make a difference in the short term, but in the long term, they're not really going to help you. So I think you've got it dead right. So appreciate you sharing that approach. What do you think, Dom?
I see what John does, and I really watch him as a student of business as well, and I admire it. So interesting. The other subject that we were talking about today is consistency. John is consistent as heck. Nobody's more consistent than him. I mean, how much content comes out, how the content looks, what the content's about. I mean, John, kudos to you on that. I mean, I see it, and he doesn't try to be all things to all people. So I live in that same world where I do inspiration, positivity, smiles. People might think that's corny. Okay, you don't even see on my own pages, on my own personal stuff. I don't put it out 24/7. I have groups and pages and things like that. I still put it out on my personal stuff, but if people don't want to deal with it, if that's not their thing, you don't have to. I get it. If you don't get that, holding the door for somebody or helping somebody cross the street inherently good and maybe there should be more of that in the world, I'm not, my content is not for you. And some people don't want, oh, imagine somebody being mad that, oh, you posted, here's a teenager that people thought was this, and he actually helped people across the road. You know, like, how could you be mad that I share that kind of content? But some people don't want to see it. So be it. Right, John, what do you think? Should I, like, how do we deal with it? You know?
Well, and I have a philosophy is that when it comes to my content and social media, this is what I'm about. This is what my show's about. This is what the content's about. You don't have to like it. As a matter of fact, every periodically I put up stuff that is appealing to law enforcement supporters and victims of crime, and that the anti-police people will hate. And those, they cannot help themselves but make stupid comments like ACAB and FTP, you know, and I just block them. I don't talk with them. I don't engage with them. But I use the philosophy is there's literally hundreds of thousands of other places where you can post content like that, where you can be guests on shows. I'm not one of them. This is what my format is about. When you turn on the television show Deadliest Catch, it's always about crab fishing or fishing and the Bering Sea, somewhere around there. It's never about underwater basket weaving somewhere else. It's never about that. So if you don't like it, you don't agree with it, that's fine. Your perspective can be totally different. I'm not here to argue with you, but that is not what I do. That's not what my format is about. And you can find places to go elsewhere and consume that kind of content.
Yeah, and you got to be confident, and you are confident in saying, I'm not going to try to be this. I'm not going to do that, and you can go elsewhere. So what? Go for it, Tom. What do you think about that? He says, yeah, just go. I hear you, man. All right. So, hey, Julie Loken in the house. Tom gives me a thumbs up. Julie Loken, nice to see you. Julie is in transit today. She's traveling to Alabama to see one of her sons.
She's going on vacation. She's saying the other day. It's a vacay.
She lives it up, man.
She works hard though.
Yeah, she does. She nonstop too. I'm not sure that sometimes I get messages from Julie at like 5 in the morning, 5:15, and she's an hour behind me. Or right, it's 4. So, John, you ever get messages like that? Let's see if that gets her to.
Well, I'll just say this: if I get a message at 4 a.m., I can guarantee you I'm not seeing it till after 6.
Yeah, that's how I am. Right. There's certain times. No, I'm out. Yes, but then I see it. I'm like, holy, and it's like a thought out process. I did this already. I'm like, you did this already? Come on, I need time to decompress in the morning and at night. I was just talking to Tom. Tom lifts weights early in the morning. That's in exercises and does his fitness early in the morning. I do mine typically in the afternoon. That's my later afternoon. That's my decompress time. So, Tom, go on.
Yeah, for me, it's I was giving you a thumbs up because I was dealing with something else. I've got a bunch of folks know that we weren't sure we were going to be here this week because I have an interview coming up here that I'm going to have to jump off for in about 5 minutes. So I was just kind of trying to juggle and get ready for that while also being here with you guys. But that was the reason for the thumbs up and why I didn't have anything to add on to what John was saying. I also didn't feel there was a need.
Yeah, he's a star. Hey, Tom, do you need to go? Do you need to shut down the live stream to go? Or are you going to
No. You guys are going to stay up on the live stream. I'm just going to disappear from it for a little while. So you guys will stay here on the live stream. The live stream will stay up, and then I'll jump back in when I'm done with my interview.
I'm going to see how many in the comments while Tom's gone. What could we could like put Tomisms in the comments or something like that.
I mean, I will see them when I come back. I mean, I'm not closing Clubhouse. I'm just leaving the live stream on. I'm just leaving my camera. So Clubhouse is still going to be open. So I'll see all of it. So feel free. Hit me. What you got? What
we
you got?
got you. Okay,
But,
got you.
yeah, I mean, to like you said, Dom, like I also need time to decompress, right? So often for me that comes in the form of like sort of later in the evening, I like to watch um some works of fiction, right? Because that helps me kind of decompress. It helps me kind of shut my brain down. It takes me out of the cycle of like focusing on work, and allows me to kind of daydream and be a little bit disconnected from things. So I do that later in the evening. In the morning, I exercise because it actually has the opposite effect for me, right? So like usually in the mornings, this morning I didn't get to yet. So I had to push my workout because unfortunately nobody was injured, but there was a car accident in front of my house. And so I was helping deal with that because I'm also a volunteer firefighter. So I was responding to an accident that was literally right in front of my house. But one of the things that working out does for me is it gives me the time and the space to just kind of let my mind run and work through a bunch of stuff. I have some of the best ideas that I use in my work while I'm out exercising, right? Like, in fact, I would be surprised if my book Legendeering even existed if I hadn't gotten into endurance sports. I mean, not to mention the fact that my publisher basically pulled the book out of me, but if I hadn't gotten into endurance sports, I don't know that it would have existed because I don't know if my thinking ever would have sort of coalesced around this concept of legendeering, if it wasn't for that time I spend in the mornings, often kind of running through ideas and thinking through my day and kind of prepping for the day mentally. So I use it a little bit differently, right? So my decompression comes from kind of taking in, like right now I just watched the latest episode of Shogun last night. So watching fictional series like that, or I was watching a comedy series just before it called Resident Alien. But watching fiction pieces like that is kind of one thing I do to decompress later in the evening. But in the mornings, I like to work out because it gets my brain moving. And with that said, I'm going to jump now. So I will see you guys all in a little bit. You guys will all stay here. The live stream will stay up. I'm just going to jump out and wish me luck while I go get interviewed.
By the way, we loved Resident Alien. We laughed hysterically.
I never saw this Resident Alien. I love aliens.
It's comical. It's very, very funny.
There we go. Okay, not the smartest guys in the room. Put stuff, Tom. How could we? Anybody got any ideas how we can mess with Tom in the comments while he's gone? Oh, Julie just got a phone call coming in. This is right in her.
We can. I think of what's the guy's name in Gone with the Wind, the main character with Frank Lee Scarlett. I don't give a damn.
Yeah.
I think of myself when I think of that, and I think of Tom when I think of that.
Yes, he definitely he does it. He is not shy about giving his opinion, is he? Not shy about.
He don't hold back. No.
Nah, and nor should he. I mean, when you're confident and know what you're doing. Hey, I just finished Legendeering, and I read it in and I read in segments. It's a week. I was done with it, and it was a great book. And once you get into like show structure, and there was so many modern day examples that were so clear that this is Tom's book, Legendary, and so many modern day examples like how why criminal SVU series is so popular, how it's structured, why it works, and then when you read the book, you're like, oh shit, I get it, I see it. It's clear as day what's going on here. So, Julie, you're back. Julie, we were talking pillars before, pillars and consistency. You're very consistent. You are 24/7 putting out content, helping people elevate their messages. So, do you have basic pillars that you use like that? So you know that you're not going down a path that you shouldn't be or getting involved in things that you shouldn't be involved in? Yep, that she took a phone call. So
I'm here. Someone just keeps calling me.
hey, you're popular. So go on, answer the question. Unless you're in the car with your family or something and you don't want to talk.
Well, we're just getting ready to board our plane, but pillars, I'm not sure I have pillars, but if I have something good to say, I'll just jump right in. I just wanted to say hi to all my friends here. Hey, guys.
All right. Well, we love having you, Julie. Julie Loken is the best. And like John Jay said, Julie works hard. Make sure you connect with everybody up in the room, on the stage. Hey, Kelsey's I don't know if she's waving to Julie or if she is saying that she wants to come up. So I don't know, but okay. Not the smartest guys in the room. Okay. Let's talk consistency. So we talked pillars. How are we consistent? So Jason, I'll go to you, John. How do you know? Are you consistent? Like Tom said, hey, I could work on it. I think for me, consistency is something I'm probably, that might be something I'm best at. For 20 years, I, I think I started posting and sharing this kind of content in 2009, but maybe I'm dumb and I should be like, I didn't get 100 million followers yet. I should leave. So how do you stay consistent, Jason? Or how do you get consistent?
I wake up literally thinking I'm going to go make impacts. I think about it the night before. And then when I wake up, I attend to me first. Like I get up at 4:00 in the morning. I go work out, read, meditate, and do all these things. I learn early in the morning. And those are my staples, like to get my day. And then it sets the tone. When you make consistency a discipline, it's no problem. But when you're trying to make consistency work for you and you have no discipline, then you're going to face a lot of problems. And you'll probably last like when people start sign up for a gym, in the beginning of the year. Oh, I'm going to do the New Year's resolution. I'm going to lose all this. But it's like, but what was the outcome really for? And did you clearly define your guidelines? Like, you're not going to get out of this. So the consistency helps you train to stay in that lane, not to be distracted, not to go somewhere else. I mean, it's okay to get curious and have imagination, but just remember, imagination fuels the presence, and fuels why consistency exists. So, for me, it's no problem. I do get distracted, but I have reminders. I write it down like, hey, I need to go back to this. Okay, if I, flutter off into space a little bit, and I'm going to go back to this. And I always carry like, those little memo pads that with the little metal rings on top. They're like pocket size. I always have one in my back pocket or in my bag. I always write reminders. So it's important to revisit what you really want and know what you want is worth doing. So consistency feeds get to your wants to exist. Hopefully that answers.
Yeah, good stuff. Now that makes me want to challenge everybody here to go back into some of the ideas that you created. Like I'm looking at one right here that I haven't worked on. I got a whiteboard that sits across from me that I haven't worked on for a while. I'm working on it with another guy, and then we had somebody else reviewing it. So how screwed? So the guy I'm doing it with, okay, we slowed down a bit. The lady that was reviewing it, she got married and had to step away. So now this project's sitting there, but it was a good idea. So how, Jason, suggestions on how to go back to any of these projects that were, or things that were these ideas?
First things first. It's like Raul Julia says in the Addams Family, the movie says, he was his lawyer, and I love this scene. He goes, hey, Sully, we can't work on new business until old business is completed first. And we're still in third quarter or second quarter. So next quarter we'll evaluate. So if you have a past project, ask yourself what interrupted. First thing, what interrupted from me continuing? Be honest with yourself. So now you know why. Okay. Now what do you have on your plate that could re-interrupt you again to not do that? Okay, well, you know what? I've got so much. I want to attend to this thing, and this thing seems cool again. I've wanted to get back to it, but it's like, give yourself some wiggle room. Look at what you have on your plate and your schedule, already what you have. And if you have too much on your schedule, can you realistically go back to that project? You're going to have to clear off the books, enough to where you got space. So I think that would probably be the best approach. If you have a project that you want to visit, then look at some projects you finished where you can put that old project in place so that you have a clearer pathway to work. Because there's nothing worse than when you're working with a mess. Just start where your feet are at. Start clearing the way.
Good stuff, man. Tristan, same thing. How do you stay consistent? Any tip to staying consistent? What do you got? Are you, unless you're like, hey, I stink at consistency and have a question. Well,
Yeah. No, maybe I have to struggle with it. I haven't been able to articulate it sometimes, and I think that's sometimes what it is. But the more the consistency I go for is around flow. As programming is a big part of our work. A flow state, or I guess that applies to anyone who's working or artistic, or gets into a space where they just want to keep going with that idea, that end result that you're getting into. And so keeping work small, keeping work in small enough items that it's easy to just keep picking them off the line and keep working on them, and not having to rethink and reevaluate each piece of work that comes in front of you, I think can be very helpful to maintain sort of flow. And the flow is the consistency. If the machine is well oiled, it's flowing through. So that tends to be what we're trying to do, is try and keep stuff at a good manageable size, and keep consistency that way.
Good stuff. I love this concept of flow, trying to get into that period of the day where you're the happiest and you're the most productive. How do you get into that more often? But here's, as we challenge each other, here's something that I picked up from what Tristan said. It's a good idea. Like you could write a book on this, or just take this and make videos. It was pick a piece. So you said, basically, if there's, like, let's say me, so right now so multiple screenplays that we have written, that we have like in-house, but once you write them, you make the treatments and things like that. It's about meeting new people and trying to get these in front of people. So I was pitching somebody the other day. I pitched them 3 ideas. They said, nope, nope, nope. And then I told them about, I got a high school coming of age story about, it's called Growing Up Gangster. And that's what it is called. And he was like, that's interesting. So this idea of pick a piece, if you could do one thing on any of these old projects, I like the idea of just moving it forward. So when we talk consistency, for me, it's just moving it forward in some way. Okay, did I move it forward in some way rather than it completely being shelved? Could I do one thing? Could I go use ChatGPT and redo a bio? Could I send an email? Could I share a social media post? That's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to talk about growing up. You guys, I'm tagging you in a post later today about Growing Up Gangster. But okay, moving on. Not the smartest guys in the room. Dante in the house. Dante, I think you're in Atlanta, right?
Yeah. Hey guys, yeah, man, I'm down here in Atlanta. Yeah.
I was watching one of those house hunters the other day. I was in New Mexico over the weekend with my sister and my dad, and she was watching House Hunters. And Atlanta, expensive as hell, man. They were in these circles, like the circles closest to town. Jeez, that's no joke down there.
Yeah, the prices definitely went up. All the LA people that migrated down here during quarantine drove the costs, everything down here up.
Dang. Hey, okay. So Dante, as you launch your business, your brand, I see do you have pillars? And then how do you stay consistent? Go on. What do you got for us? Well, and if you want to ask a question about it, go on.
Oh no, I love it, man. As soon as I came in, I go, this is my jam right here. It's funny the conversation you're having, because since the thing I've been organizing this book and notes and creating an outline, and the flow book, actually, ironically, what Tristan just brought up, talking about flow, and I was noticing, I was like, man, I kind of have some blocks, right? I was like, where are these blocks coming from? And there's a script I had started probably like a year ago, my second one. It's like kind of as if you took Fresh and Bobby Fischer and you kind of intermingled the two. It's chess film, and kind of like so anyway. And I set a goal to have it finished by a date, because I already had seen the whole story from start to finish, and I hadn't completed it, and I was like, I picked it back up and I said, you need to get this out of the way before I move on to this next thing because it was like a subconscious block. Just it was like limiting the flow of creativity, and it's like I guess if you, bad analogy, like if you're like you weren't completely divorced yet, or you're still living in the house with the wife, and then you're out dating again, even though you know you're getting divorced. It's kind of like that type of energy. It's just a block. I couldn't get there with it, so I like just cranked out like 7 pages yesterday on it. Just dove into it, cranked it out, and as I really just took on the challenge and got it out of the way, I could feel a lot of energy start to free up. The clarity of the story started to come. So and I said I don't necessarily have to finish this thing before I'll start, but let me get the lion's share of what is kind of in my head on paper, and that's going to free up the real estate so that I can move into the more into the flow book, because it's literally, so it's kind of a synchronicity of like I need to get into flow to create the flow. So that's where I'm at with it right now. So that's with my project. So a great conversation.
Oh, hey, when you're writing screenplays, what program do you use? Or are you using like Google Docs or something?
No, I wrote Danger on Duty and ATL Crime Saga. I wrote that on I started it on Word, and then back in 2020, and then when I finally got it complete and finished, I switched it over to Drama Queen, which is like you can integrate that into like Final Cut or Final Draft or whatever
Yeah.
the main industry
Yep.
one is. You can do all that fun stuff. Yeah. Or,
Gotcha.
Final Draft.
I use Fade In, which is basically the same as Final Draft. Same, it's standard. You can switch it back and forth, but to have all the people's names and everything like that already in there, the descriptions, the scenes, everything like that. Once I start to type interior, this person's house, it populates and stuff like that. So, and it formats it automatically. Where before I was using Google Docs, and then I would have to pay somebody to format them after the fact, and not everybody understood that kind of formatting. So blah, blah, blah. We will move on from that. So not as far as guys in the room. Hey, John J., consistency. Any tips for us to stay consistent? How do we, like you're putting out content really 24/7. How do we stay consistent? How do we, okay, let's say I'm starting out and I can only do, I would say, hey, I'm starting out, I can only do one day. What kind of tips you got?
Well, the one tip I would give, and you and Tom kind of hit on this, and I believe Julie as well. I really structure my time that certain times I do certain things. Like for example, first thing in the morning, I'm going to work on scheduling content for Facebook and Instagram on my primary page. Then I'm going to share. I don't want to share, this is the wrong word, but I'm going to copy post to another page I manage. Then I've got another one I'm getting ready to do different posts on. And I've got a fourth page that I'm doing on. So that's every morning. Then I only do recording of episodes of my shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays, either 12 noon or 1 p.m. That's it. Unless they are a huge name that I'll make a exception for, which is very rare. That's it. And I give people dates. Saturdays and Sundays, I work on editing my content and doing the final mix downs and sending it off to the radio syndicator and podcast. But the main thing for me, in short, is schedule your time, block out your time, and then make sure you have time for what's important in life. So I try to end things by 6 p.m., 7 p.m. at the latest, spend time with my wife. We watch TV, we have dinner, we do several things together, and unplug. And I try to do that 7 days a week. So time management is really, really important.
Love that tip, man. I got that from you and Johnny used to talk about, like, even blocking the free time to just make sure that you were even taking lunch and stuff like that. So I took that from you. Hey, we have our man, Tom Langan, is back from his interview. Tell us about your interview. What'd you talk about, Tom? Where were you at?
Unsurprisingly, we talked about legendaring. I was just actually emailing the producer to say thank you. Yeah, it went really well. It's funny because it's interesting when you do these. It was live to tape, so it wasn't live on air, but live to tape, and it's for a morning news program. And so when you do those kind of interviews, you forget that it's a bit unceremonious. You kind of have to be ready to go right away. They go live, and it was literally, I was in the Skype call, and all of a sudden there's the host introducing me, and there I am on screen talking to the host, and I better just have some good things to say. But luckily, I spend an inordinate amount of time talking about legendaring and what I do and why it matters, and furthering my mission to humanize the world of business through better communication. And so I felt like I was ready and willing and able, and I think I did pretty well. I think I did okay. I held my own.
Well, Tom, congrats. And it's interesting. On the day we're talking about consistency, that you are able to show up prepared and talk about legendaring, right? Because Tom is consistent. This is what he talks about. He's on message. When he shows up, he's ready. He looks good. Like Tom says, I look good on camera. He looks good, not me. My hair looks good. But okay, Tom. So just consistency.
My hair does not look good.
So, hey, Amanda, we're coming. We're talking about consistency. Tom just jumped on the radio. So, Tom, consistency, just give us, since you jumped on this web interview today, as far as showing up on camera, how do you make sure you're consistent?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a couple of things. I get asked questions a lot by folks, like, how do I, they say every time I'm in a meeting with you, right? If they're on Zoom or anybody who watches this live stream that we're on right now, they always say, you look exactly the same. How do you do that? And the answer is really, really straightforward. It's I remove all the variables and put the look of what you see on camera completely under my control. So what does that mean? Well, I have a window about 3 feet that way, right? There's a window about 3 feet that way. Well, guess what's in front of the window? A blackout curtain, right? So all of the lighting that you see on my face right now is 100% intentional. It's all lights that I put in place to illuminate me and the background in a very particular way to make sure that I look good on camera. Now, I also have the advantage of owning a video production company and having access to better quality equipment than your average person. So I've been able to take stuff that I already owned and knowledge, excuse me, and knowledge that I already had, and put it to work to craft, this look on camera. But really what it starts with is, don't rely on things outside of your control. So people ask me like, well, sometimes, I look great when it's sunny, but when it's cloudy, nobody can see me. And I'm like, well, then you're relying on the wrong thing for your main source of light, right? Like, if nobody can see you when it's cloudy out or late in the evening and you look great when it's sunny, then what you need to do is replace the sun with a light that you control, right? And think about like where the sun is coming into the room, the angle at which the light is coming through the window. And if it looks really good, then try to replicate that. Put a blackout curtain in front of the window and then put your light in the same direction from, hitting your face from the same direction as if it was coming through the window, right? You're going to need that light closer because I guarantee you don't own a light that's bright enough to emulate the sun. But use what's available to you, right? Like if it looks good coming through that window, then just eliminate the variable. Don't rely on the sun, rely on a light that you have control over, but use the same angle, right? So it's pretty straightforward to just kind of get the basics started to dial in. I mean, I have 7 lights set up right now in my office, like in my kind of office / studio that I use for meetings and for live streams and for Zoom and for recording videos and all this kind of stuff. So that's not something that your average person is going to have access to, right? But you can very easily, very simply, very inexpensively get a couple of lights and set them up in a room and control the variables, and create a situation where you actually look dramatically better and more consistently better, right? You look the same no matter whether it's day or night, winter or summer. The only difference you're going to see is in the summer, I'm not going to have a long sleeve shirt on, right? Because it's warm in here. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the way you do it, is you control the controllables, right? And don't rely on items outside of your control, because all you're doing then is setting yourself up for disappointment or failure, right? So control what you can control.
We'll take it, brother. All right, let's go. All right, Amanda, somebody that's very consistent. We're coming to you. I watch your videos. I like the way they look the same. They look good. I enjoy them. They're quick. They're to the point. Amanda, what's going on? How do you stay consistent? You got any tips for consistency? Or we were talking about pillars too, which if you have core principles, pillars that you stand behind, or things that your business does, then you're not off message. What do you got for us? Nice to see you.
Hey, how's everyone doing? So nice to see so many familiar faces in here. Consistency for me is knowing that, keeping in mind, I mean, I feel like we all get into like, a funk, or sometimes we're just like, oh God, you gotta do the thing. But it's reminding yourself that, this is no longer a hobby. This is something that, is more than a hobby. And for me, when I get into those funks, or I feel like, not showing up, or just not able to get myself together, I'm vulnerable, and I just keep it real about it. Like my newest episode launches tomorrow, and I don't know about you guys, but there's like a weird energy going on right now in the world. Not to get too woo-woo on everyone, but I've just been talking to a lot of people, and they're just like, "Oh, I'm in such a funk. Like I feel like I can't feel like I have weights around my ankles, and, just trugging along." And I'm like, I feel it. I feel you. I'm right there with you. And I brought that up in conversation on my podcast. So I'm very transparent when I am, showing up. And I feel like that helps me show up with more ease, rather than trying to be something that I'm not, or trying to be in an energy that I just can't align myself with. I just keep it real and let everyone know, because for me and my audience, it may resonate more than just showing up and blasting through and exhausting myself even more. So giving them something that may be relatable versus something that may be not real is what really hits home and allows me to show up more consistently.
I mean, I think that's great, because at the end of the day, it sounds to me, Amanda, that like what you're doing is you're really putting your audience first, right? Is you're making sure that you're you're doing your best to show up for them, as opposed to just doing whatever kind of suits you. So you're listening to them when your audience, gives you feedback and says, they're struggling right now, whether it's because it's the end of the winter and they want spring, or because it's tax season, or whatever the case may be, right? That you're listening to them, you're attuned to them, and you're giving them what they're asking you for. I think that's really important, to make sure that you're always listening to your audience and putting them first, right? I mean, one of the things I said earlier, before you were in the room, we were talking through like kind of core, values and principles and pillars, and one of mine is to remember it's not about you, it's about them, right? Your audience. That ultimately what you're doing, what you're creating in your platform, whether it's a podcast or a video series or whatever the case may be, that you're doing it for the community, right? And not for you. That they're primary, you're secondary. And it sounds to me like you're doing a good job of remembering that. So well done. What do you think, Dom? Did you find show and tell? We got show and tell.
I did find show and tell, and I just back to Amanda. I was affected by her just making sure that she like this way of showing up authentically, that if you're hurting, it is all right to be real. And so that reminder, Amanda, was a good reminder. So thank you. Yeah, I got show and tell, Tom. So this show and tell, I'm going to, I want to, I feel my dad growing up hung out with a wide range of people. It didn't matter if they were, it didn't matter what side of town they were from, what their jobs were. If they were nice to him, if they treated people nice, that is what he based his opinions on. And I hope I do the same thing in my life. I think, hey, this person, no matter what their job is, what their lot in life is, that's a good person. That's somebody I want to be around. So one of the people that we used to hang around was a gentleman by the name of Yams. Yams owned a bar on a little bar in the most rural part of town. Most rural part of a Pennsylvania town, coal town. Think rural. I want you thinking rural, and that's where his little bar was. Inside of his bar, he sold shoes. He sold outside. He basically had a junkyard with like old cars, but he had some nice ones, Porsches, old cars from the 50s and things like that. But he was also in the landscape business and sold my dad straw and things like that. My dad's a landscaper, and Yams looked like a dirty Santa Claus. And so, but this Yams was entertaining, and he had this voice. He was a big guy that looked like Santa Claus, and I'm going to do my impression of him. Ooh, kookaloo, you're making Yammer crazy. And he had that accent, and that was how he acted all the time, and so he would come to our house and visit and stuff like that. So when I went into the restaurant business, a lot of the reason I went into the restaurant business was because I spent a lot of my youth in Yams's bar. And hanging out with this guy that was putting on a show, and he was so memorable and nice to everybody. But I wanted to share a picture my dad gave me of me and Yams. And so I don't know if you're able to see it. So there's me and Yams. Yams is holding me there. He's tickling me with his whiskers. Okay, that's what he would do. Ooh, let Yammer tickle you with his whiskers. But my dad gave me this picture, and there's down in the corner is my dad. My dad put this together for me, and it down in the corner it's him. In the middle it's me and Yams, and over here it's Muhammad Ali, and down at the bottom it says "Be great, do great things." So the combination of those three, Dad, me and Yams, and Muhammad, those are doing great things all together. That's what I got for you. Look at this guy. All right, that was Yams.
So here's what I want to know.
Yeah.
How? Hang on one second.
You got a good echo. How? Okay, how? Ooh, yeah. One summer I was going to work for Yams.
Hold on, I got it fixed. How did Yams get the nickname Yams?
I think, and I don't know that because his bar was called Yams's Bar. I think maybe his last name was like Yambrowski or something, something to that effect. But I am not sure. I don't even know what this guy's last name is.
Do you know what his real first name was?
No, I don't know that anybody did.
It's just Yams.
He just Yams, and we loved him. And he had a 6-wheeler. He would drive up to my house once in a while and take us for rides. Or then when I was later in life, me and my wife would see Yams walk along the side of the highway because one of his cars would break down, and we'd pick up Yams, and he was just full of entertainment at all times. Love the guy, miss him. That's what I got.
That's fine. I love it. I mean, I think all of us should be so fortunate to have like these characters in our lives, especially when we're kids. Because I would bet money that like for you as a kid, Yams was like a character out of a fairy tale or out of a book, right? Like he was larger than life. No one else you knew was anything like him. He was, very unique. And kids, it's so cool as a kid to get to know somebody like that and have those kinds of characters, in your life, who can be those sort of larger than life characters that fall outside of the sort of, the norm of what we're used to with our parents or our immediate family. To have those kind of outlandish characters around is always really cool. So that's cool. I really like that one. I wish I'd gotten to sit down and have a beer with Yams, and I would have been okay with him not, get me with his whiskers, because that'd be weird as an adult. But it would have been a hell of a good time to sit down and listen to some stories.
And he lived at the bar, and he lived at the bar, and so sometimes you would go in and play pool, and because we knew each other so long, we'd say, "Hey, Yams, what's all these white hairs on the pool table?" He slept on the pool table because he was afraid of everywhere else in this establishment that he had. So he was up off the ground high and safe.
So he literally, there wasn't like an apartment above the bar or like next to the bar. He literally lived in the bar.
Yeah, well, the bar might have had other rooms in it. A bar in a rural town was probably like an old singleplex, an old half of a duplex. So think of a half of a duplex, single family home. The bar was probably that size, and the whole thing was his bar. So that's what you got. So yeah, there was probably, and he was selling clothing and everything at the bar. So now back to a point I want to make. So I mentioned this story, Growing Up Gangster, earlier, one that I wrote. Me and Dante were talking screenplays for a minute while you were gone. In that, you will always take in writing. It is all right to combine characters. So some people, when they start writing, they want to write, they have 60 characters, and the people watch or reading can't figure out who all these people are, because this guy's Carl, this guy's Adam, this guy's this. It's okay to combine characters, and then you take features from Yams and features from other person, and you make that, like Tom said, even though he was larger than life, now he's even larger than life. Add a little bit more to that person. Take some of my friend Juan and add them to Yams, and then all of a sudden you got yourself a heck of a character there. So that's how to build your characters. Go on, Tom.
Yeah, well, and I think part of that too, which is, comes from sort of a practical consideration that a lot of people don't think about, is you have to have time to do character development, right? In whether it's a book or it's a film or whatever the case may be, you have to have time to do character development, and you can't overwhelm the audience trying to introduce too many characters too quickly. Yep. Right? Even if you look, at like, book series, right? So take whether it's Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or even the Game of Thrones series, right? Like you look at book series and you don't meet all the characters at the beginning of the first book, right? But when you're compressing that timeline into one book or one movie, right, or one piece of content, you can't possibly meet all of those characters at once. So you have to combine them. If it's important to have sort of two characters in an arc and you don't have time to introduce both of them, you make them one character, right? And you kind of get that one character to hit both the action points that the two characters used to hit. And they become, as you said, like Yams did, an even bigger version or more outlandish version of themselves. So yeah, I mean, I love that. I kind of I almost want to do like a riff on like Cheers, but with like Yams as the main character of the bar, and like it's all the local people that go into Yams's bar, right? And Yams is this crazy character that is, on the one hand, completely out of his mind, right? But on the other hand, absolutely beloved by everyone that meets him, and endearing like you wouldn't believe. I don't know. Yes. I think that would be a fun sort of.
I love it, man. Let's talk. And the thing about, like, when you talk about developing characters is, so I don't know, Flash, if you've ever seen Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul here. No Breaking Bads, no Better Call Sauls. Okay, interesting. How about
That's Flashed.
Okay. How about Yellowstone? Okay, we got a Yellowstone. Okay, so when you like, both of those were two great series as far as building characters, and it's interesting how much more you can build characters in the series. To Tom's point, like you have 10 episodes to build Jimmy in Yellowstone. Jimmy comes, I don't know if Jimmy comes, he's a nerdy little cowboy, and John Dutton helps him out. And at first, he's not a cowboy. They make him a cowboy. They break him. Then they find out he's good at riding a Mustang or whatever, a bull, whatever he's riding at the time. Then he's a champion. Then he breaks his back. Then he has to learn to ride again. And then he finds a girlfriend. Then he finds another girlfriend. Then he finds his true love. One girl only wants a guy that can ride. One girl loves him for him. All this, and then he goes away with her and rides off into the sunset. This is character 15 on Yellowstone. I mean, what beautiful development of a character. And then I was thinking of in Better Call Saul, there's a character, Howard. He's a lawyer who you hate Howard, you like Howard. Howard works for Saul, works for him. Then Howard basically fires him. There's so much. And then at the end, we lose Howard and we look at it and we're like, oh no, Howard's gone. Howard might have been really character 12 on the show, but the way they were able to build him, it's masterful. Go on, Tom. I see this is down your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. Like and I think that when you talk about that kind of journey, right, with a character, right, you love him, you hate him, you understand him, he confuses you. It's I think what that speaks to is the skill behind how that character's written and the way in which that character is introduced to the audience and developed for the audience, right? And how that character interacts with other characters on the show, because those are very, very sort of typical human reactions to other people, right? I mean, I think, you think about, like I have my best friend in the world, right? Like the guy that I've known the longest, who I consider to be my best friend in the world. We've known each other since we were 2 years old, right? We're kind of more like brothers than we are friends, in that there's this sort of inextricable bond between us, but we ended up in adulthood kind of being relatively different people and going down different paths, right, in life. And at the same time, I can tell you there were times when we were kids and when we were growing up where we got into like full-blown fistfights with each other, right? Where we hated each other's guts for like a day, right? And then it was back to things as normal, right? Back to like being inseparable. And then we'd get in a fight about something and we'd hate each other's guts for a while, and then we were back to being inseparable. And so it's a very human reaction to, and really speaks to the skill of the writers and the creators behind that show, that they were able to give that depth to the character, that you like him, you hate him, you understand him, he confuses you, right? That there is that sort of nuance to him, because I think we all have moments in our lives when even people that we've known forever, we look at, right, and we think, what is happening right now? Like, what are you doing? Like, how is this happening right now? I don't understand this. And it confuses us, but it's somebody that we've known our whole lives, or it's a spouse, right, or something like that. And you're just like, what is happening right now? And then you move on and you understand that, people are conundrums, right? Like, we all have those kind of nuances to our characters, and we do unexpected things from time to time. But I really, like, it makes me want to watch that show more. It's kind of on my list of like shows that I'll get to at some point, is Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. But yeah, it makes me want to watch that show more, and sooner rather than later. I guess it's a prequel, right? Like, I mean, Better Call Saul in the timeline happens before Breaking Bad, even though it was made after.
Yeah, but you want to watch Breaking Bad first. You
Gotcha.
want to you want to watch Breaking Bad first,
Okay.
and then they introduce Saul in Breaking Bad, and then you see all Saul's life. So when you talk about character development, Saul had all of Breaking Bad, and then his own show that they go. So Saul is the most complex of characters. Breaking Bad is incredible, maybe the best show I've ever seen written. Like I really would go that far.
I wonder, it makes me wonder though, because the way it was obviously the way it aired, right, was Breaking Bad, and then Better Call Saul was a spinoff, right? But in the timeline, Better Call Saul happens first. I wonder, I'm sure somebody's written about this, right? But I wonder, like, do you get a better appreciation for the character of Saul in Breaking Bad if you watch Better Call Saul first?
Ooh. That's complex. I would go Breaking Bad first because I feel Saul is a secondary character in Breaking Bad, and so you would go into it. They aren't both stand on their own. You only see a cross at a little point, so. But you know them. It's. But to your point, we're coming. To your point, I think Saul is better written. I think Breaking Bad is absolutely perfect. I think it's the best ever. I think every beat of it, every show, even the colors they use in it, they've thought about all that, from the color of the wife's eyes are blue, and she is supposed to be pure and things like that. And there's so much depth to it. But then Saul, character development, because they had all Breaking Bad, and then and then in Saul, it is pre-Breaking Bad and after Breaking Bad. So they're giving you both at one time. So that's what you got going on there. So it is so Better Call Saul is a prequel and a postquel of what would you call that? What's the word?
Sequel, prequel, and sequel.
It's a prequel and sequel of Breaking Bad at the same time, which makes it even more wild. But it moves because they do so much time building characters. It moves slower, and so, but you love these characters because you know them. But it moves. That's why I would say Breaking Bad is just. I mean, it's the best. All right, Beth, not the smartest guys in the room. We are talking consistency. Now we're talking Breaking Bad and character development, but we were talking pillars. And go on. What do you got for us, Beth?
Yeah, I'm listening to y'all. And I haven't watched Yellowstone. Everyone tells me I need to watch it, but I'm also thinking back to a show that I didn't really understand, The Big Bang Theory, like in its whole part, until I started watching their spinoff, right? And now I can understand The Big Bang Theory because what is his name?
Young Sheldon.
Young Sheldon.
Young Sheldon. Yeah, yeah. Now I can understand where the series was at, that I understand where this character was being built from. So yeah, interesting conversation.
There we go. We got interested. We should talk all characters another day. We'll just go into digging into developing. Like Dante was saying, he's doing some writing, so and working on some screenplays. Think about adding. And so I would do it the same. Think about adding something, going back to any of these characters and adding a way they looked at somebody when they crossed the room, a way they turned their head, a way they looked down at their watch instead of making eye contact to somebody. That will make your story better later on. So that's what I would add to that subject. Okay, Tom, we're almost to that point. Now, this is the hardest wrap up ever because Tom was gone for 25 minutes interviewing, but I can't have that kind of pressure. So what do you think, Tom? You got more to add, or are you ready to wrap?
No, I was just gonna say too, like I think it was interesting that Beth brought up the Big Bang Theory and young Sheldon, because we talked about like character development, and I talked about fiction. I tend to like to watch sort of not sitcoms but fiction when I was talking earlier about how I unwind at the end of the day, right? But that I tend to like to watch not sitcoms, fiction. But I do have the multicam sitcom format, like Big Bang Theory, like Cheers, like Friends, like so many Golden Girls, right? Like all of those are multicam sitcom formats. I do have it does have a place in my heart, right? But it's because I think for me it's more it's a combination of, do I find the show funny, right? But also, and I'm not really worried about finding the characters believable in a sitcom, right? But do I find the show funny? Um, and does it allow me to sort of just let it happen? Do I not have to think about it very much, right? I think that's the sort of nice thing about a sitcom, is that they're a little bit uh they're a little bit easy to watch because they don't really require a lot of thought or a lot of overthinking. But it's a format I grew up watching and I loved growing up. I mean, I think the first multicam sitcom I ever watched, I think was Happy Days. I think was one of the first that I ever watched. And so I really enjoyed that. It's a format, but it's a very different format. And the only way, I think that characters really develop is over a long period of time on those sitcoms. And you get like a sitcom that runs, you know, 8 seasons, 10 seasons, you get to see a little bit of a character arc over those seasons. But generally speaking, most of the characters and the situations are relatively frozen in time. Not that much changes because you don't have time in a half-hour show to do a lot of that kind of work. And because the episodes are meant to stand on their own, right? The idea is, when you got a show like Friends, right, that ran for 10 years, that had 140 episodes or whatever it is, right, or more, 150 plus, you can't say to somebody who like watches an episode in season 9, well, you have to go back and watch 130 episodes so that this makes sense, right? Everything has to kind of stand on its own. So they don't follow the same arc. Everything's a little bit, relatively speaking, frozen in time, right? Or has to stand alone. So they don't get to do the kind of deep character development that we were talking about in the shows like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul or Yellowstone or Shogun, right? Which I'm watching right now, which is a crazy good show. But or Game of Thrones, right? Like you just don't get to see those long, deep character development arcs in a sitcom. But they can be fun, especially when you got a character like Yams who owns a bar in an old house in the middle of nowhere, right? Like, I mean, it just sounds like it could be a really good multicam sitcom. Just we should talk about it.
It's gold. I'm in that idea. I love. Hey, I almost bought a Golden Girls shirt last night. We were at the mall. Me and my wife. We were at the mall. Was it yesterday? And we're buying something. And I said, "Ooh, I like that Golden Girls shirt." And she said, "I know you do." I should have bought it, but I did not buy it. But it was cool.
And a little behind the scenes thing too. Like one of the things they look at when they talk about like characters is, for a show like Golden Girls or like Friends, for example, you want to be able to basically sum those characters up in like a sentence, right? Or a phrase, right? So it's like, and I don't remember I don't remember who was who. But like, in Golden Girls, like obviously, the mom, like I forget her name. Now it escapes me. I don't know. Do you know the mom's name, Dom? Do you remember?
Of course, Sophia. Come on,
Sophia.
man.
Yeah. Right. So Sophia was the wisecracking like old lady, right? And then you had what's her face that was played by oh God, her name escapes me now, and she was a freaking national treasure.
Okay, Betty White,
Betty White,
and she
right?
was
She was the dumb one, like the lovable dumb one,
okay.
right?
Rose,
'Cause she was from what,
yeah.
like St. Cloud,
Rose, Blanche, Dorothy. Come on,
St. Cloud, Minnesota, or something like that, right? Isn't that where she was
Saint
from?
Olaf. Yeah,
St. Olaf, yeah.
John, I know you got to go. Right, you're probably doing your show, but I know you want some Golden Girls trivia here, man. Jump in.
Yeah, but like all those characters could be summed up in like a phrase or like a bullet point. And that's kind of what sitcoms are going for, is like, the funny one, right, in Friends was Chandler, right?
The dumb ladies man, Joey.
Yeah, the dumb ladies man, Joey, right? Exactly. So like you want to be able to sum those characters up again, because that way you can create episodes that stand alone. So if somebody comes into it in season 5, they can watch one episode in season 5, having never seen the show before, and it'll make sense and be funny and entertaining. Right. So you don't get to do that same kind of character development, but it's different. It's just different. Right. You get to do different things that you can't do in a series like, Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like, you tell me what you think we should wrap up on. 'Cause I'm kind of like, I feel my brain is all over the map today. I started my morning with a car accident in front of my house, and I spent an hour and a half outside helping out with that. And then I came in here and jumped on this, had to deal with technical issues. And then I went and got interviewed for a TV show. And then I came back, and now we're talking about character development and sitcoms. And yeah, so I feel like my brain's all over the place. I don't even know where to start.
Well, okay, so I got one for you, because I think I feel like there's an underlying tone to everything, that because Tom is consistent as F, right? Some people say that you should just say the word if you're going to say that. So I've never landed, especially in writing. Like when you write in a book, some people say, like, some people put F then like stars, but just say the word or not say the word. But I don't know where I stand on that. So anyway, because Tom is so consistent with his hat, with how he shows up on camera, with how he works, with his work out, even though today he had an interview, a wreck in front of his house, his laptop went down at one point. We're doing a clubhouse that he missed 30 minutes of, and I'm able to say, hey, wrap up, because you were on. I think because you're so consistent, that you're still able to deliver. So I would speak to that.
Well, I appreciate that. It sounds like either a huge vote of confidence or a really solid attempt at passing the buck. But yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, I think it comes down to making a lot of little decisions that add up to sort of a big impact, right? And so when you talk about, me being consistent in how I show up, in how I look, in how I sound, in the things that I say, right? What I did was I made a lot of little decisions that I think over time, over the last 5 years or so, I mean, not like the last month, like the last 5 years of decision making has kind of gotten me to where I'm sitting today, where a lot of those little decisions make a lasting impact, right? So early on, when I started Talex Media, when I decided to leave the entertainment industry and start Talex Media, I decided to get some merch, right, for my new company. And so what I decided to do was get a hat. Well, I found out pretty quickly that you couldn't embroider my logo that I had painstakingly designed for my company because of the typeface that I had chosen. It wasn't embroiderable. I think that's the way you say that. Anyway, so what I had to do was figure out how to solve that problem. So what I went out, I got some patches woven, right? And then put patches on hats. And then I started wearing a hat. And now I and the hat are kind of inseparable, right? I always have my hat on. In fact, I didn't wear it, but I had my hat with me at my wedding reception because I thought I might put it on. It's that sort of ubiquitous. It is everywhere I go, right? The hat is with me. The hat is on. so it was a little decision that I decided, hey, look, if I'm gonna, if I don't feel proud and portray that I'm proud of this business that I'm building, then nobody else is going to be either. No one else is going to buy it. And there's an easy way to do that, and that's to always wear something that says your business on it, right? That conveys pride in what you're doing. So that's what I decided to do. When it's about how I look, right? Early on in the pandemic, when everything suddenly went virtual, I was at that point, I was kind of a late adopter of video conferencing, right? I wasn't using video conferencing in my day-to-day business. But I am now, and I started to very quickly. And I immediately said, okay, well, I'm going to get some of the equipment out that's now sitting in my garage, not being used because I can't put it to work because everything is shut down, and I'm going to turn my office into a studio. And so that's what I did. I used the skill set that I had. And initially, really, I did it primarily because I needed something to do to keep myself busy because everything was shut down. And I started hosting a daily happy hour during the pandemic. And so for the people showing up for that happy hour, it was fun to kind of talk about what we were doing and how we were doing it. And I turned my office into a studio, and that's how I show up looking consistently the same every time. And when it comes to, the pillars that I built my book Legendeering on, of leading with value, right? Of giving without expectation, of being relentlessly authentic, remembering it's not about me, it's about the audience, about starting with story, putting story first, and then following with facts, and that consistency is key. All of those decisions came out of how I wanted to put my business forward and the work that I wanted to do for my customers and clients, and the direction that I was steering them in. And all of those things added up to a book, which, is the reason why I was being interviewed on TV this morning. It's the reason why I was interviewed on a podcast yesterday. It is hopefully going to end up being one of the reasons why, I was somewhat successful in my mission to humanize the world of business, right? So it's a lot of little decisions that add up to a big impact over time. I never sat down and laid out and said, okay, from today forward, here's how everything is going to look, right? I just make a lot of little decisions, one step at a time, that push me in that direction because I have that overarching mission, that underwriting desire, and that ultimate destination in mind. I'm able to keep moving in the right direction, and all of those little decisions add up to big impact. So don't feel like you have to jump to the top of the mountain all in one stride. Right? Just put one foot in front of the other, make a lot of little decisions, and over time, they'll add up to outsized, big impact. And that's all I got for you today. I hope that stood up to the hype, lived up to the hype of being a good wrap up, despite my absence early on and the technical difficulties we dealt with. But as always, we appreciate everybody being here. We love you guys. Thank you for joining us. On behalf of Dom and myself, Tom, we're not the smartest guys in the room. We appreciate you. We love you. We wish we could have gotten to spend some time with Yams. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time right here. Until then, have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. And just keep taking small steps. We'll see you soon. Love you guys. Bye-bye.